And of course he then goes on to the Human Fertilization Embryology Bill, which of course could be disastrous on many, many levels. Yes. Do you think that we as a nation, and of course the church then reflect as part of a nation, do you think these issues are a problem, and that we are actually looking at ways to almost not deal with the issue and not accept the issue?
Well, I think that's absolutely right, because we are moving as a society away from the Victorian values that we've lived on for so many years, and people are now looking at it purely as a monoistic approach, that we're just simply flesh and blood, and therefore, it's not a question of souls and spirituality at all, it's just a physical issue. And the philosophy and theology that flows from this is means that if it's not right, then get rid of it. And if it's not right, then you can abuse it. And of course, this is, from a Christian point, we know is totally and utterly wrong. But unfortunately, we are moving towards society, whether it's the euthanasia debate or whether it's the abortion debate, it's actually the same thing. And once society is becoming much more towards a humanistic viewpoint, and of course this is because there's a separation between the state and the church, which is not as God intended it, because it's convenient for everybody, but it doesn't. But it means that we are in a church, a state church, which is atheistic, and doesn't. Although it says it accepts all faiths and beliefs, it actually preaches humanism, and the laws. Whoever's run this email is absolutely right. Are moving much more towards, the sort of taking a more active step to save the burden on the state. I mean, I remember recently, this is a totally different subject, but hearing talk about people with severe dementia, which is a topic we covered last time. And they were saying that if you've got really bad dementia and you've left it in your will that you don't want to live, if you want to be put to sleep, then that should be perfectly okay. So we are moving, unfortunately, into a society where we don't accept this. This email is a real issue with people. With people who the tests that you have done now. What do you do if you've got an abnormal test?
Right.
And we are going to get more and more tests. Science is running at a big time. It's going to be a big problem.
And as Christians, we need to be far more proactive. I think.
Well, the churches. I mean, we do have people battling it, but most of us are apathetic.
Yes.
There are organisations in Parliament who are fighting for us, but the church is quiet.
Yes.
It doesn't have a voice.
Yeah. We need to wake him up a little bit, or God needs to wake him up. We're encouraging today. We're joined on the phone now by Esther from East Midlands. Good afternoon, Esther.
Oh, hi.
What can we do for you today?
Well, I find it quite interesting what you're talking about today, because I'm disabled, and I think that people need to think about as well, in that disabled people are capable of doing many other things that a lot of Christians who are very busy, with their normal life, can't do. We can spend more time praying like that, and even helping charity. Doug's got Reach Out Trust. The one where you do the labels, you send the labels out.
Oh, right.
And you're going to go back to doing that again. But, you're a person and your worth, and you know what I'm saying?
Yes, indeed.
So I think with both people who are able-bodied and disabled, see these people as, we're people that can help. And the thing that my husband and I find quite difficult, whether we were living in London or up here in the East Midlands, is getting people to come and take us to the church.
Yeah. Right.
And we know a lot of people are very busy, but, it's surprising when you've got a lot of problems, disability-wise. You can't always get out, and when you are too ill and you can't get to church, you're just in too much pain. Just sometimes Christians would think, I might pop round and see that couple. Yeah. And it means a lot. And we can pray with them. You know what I mean? It's just finding a way to adapt and help each other. And like I said, for disabled people, and to feel like they're worth somebody. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yes, Esther, I 100% agree with you that people like yourself are just as important to God. In fact, sometimes I think you're more important because you have inner abilities, and in a relationship you depend on these inner relationships to keep yourself going.
Oh gosh, yes.
And I think that one of the things you've raised there is a real issue with churches. This is what I was saying. Churches that tend to care and see themselves as the body of Christ. What I mean by that is that if you haven't got legs to walk, for instance, then somebody comes and pushes you to the church in the wheelchair and becomes your legs. And that is a reflection of the body of Christ. Now, churches that do that tend to attract, and you find quite a few people who are disabled in there. Churches, churches that don't do that, who sort of basically only want to see you on Sunday and want your money, and then, off you go for the rest of the week.
I think it's also important to remember disabled people are also whole people.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes I have to sit on the floor a lot. So it's like, she's something wrong with her, and some people can be a bit rude, not meaning to, but, but it's just to remember, I'm a real person too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I'll shut up now.
No, you're
don't,
great.
Don't.
Keep going.
Keep preaching.
I'm all embarrassed.
I mean,
a bit nervous.
You shouldn't be embarrassed, Esther, because what you're saying is true. And we do need to respond to one another in a far more loving and acceptable way, and to see what we can do for each other. As you say, there's a longing some days for you to go to be with other Christians, but you can't get there. Surely, as Christians, we should be doing something very practical, very down to earth. But it's really serving God in that as well, because you're as much part of the body of Christ to be built in as anybody else. There is, you have physical disabilities, but there's no distinction in the spirit from that point of view.
Can I add something here? So I think one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of the reason why churches don't do things, or you feel frustrated with churches, is because they're ignorant. Sometimes it's not that the heart isn't there, but they don't actually understand you or your situation or what your needs are. And sometimes you do have to actively go and talk to the leaders and explain what the issues are, and see if they will accommodate this in some way, and so the leaders will become much more tolerant of you sitting on the floor, or they will get a rota to or allocate people to come and help you to get to church if that's what's needed. And I think it is a lot of ignorance. You think they ought to understand, but unfortunately it doesn't work like that.
I'll say God bless, because I'm really nervous.
No,
thank you. Well
done.
Yeah, bless you, Esther.
Well,
thanks very much for your call. Appreciated it. And now we have Claire from Southampton. Hi, Claire.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. My call really is about, I'm calling from the other side. I'm a carer for my son who's disabled. Yeah. He wasn't actually born disabled. He had an accident when he was 13 and was left with severe brain damage, which has left him profoundly disabled. Through that, I actually became a Christian. I found that a lot of people that supported me were Christians, and it really encouraged me, and I gave my life to Jesus because of that.
Wonderful.
But I went to a large church initially. They were very welcoming, but I didn't feel that I had any special support that I could have done with, especially as a new Christian, and trying to understand why, all the questions that do come. Why wasn't he healed? Why is he like this? Have I done something wrong to deserve this? I must have upset God or something, And then the church that I was going to actually changed to evenings, and I felt very vulnerable taking my son out in the evening. So I was really angry, actually. I felt quite let down. But then went to a smaller church, and they have been absolutely amazing. The support that I get. So I don't know whether in a big church you can tend to get lost, or you're seen as a unit together. Me and my son we seem to be, I'm not a person on my own, and he's not a person on his own. We come together as a pair.
Yes.
And sometimes I come to church on my own, and I have a real bad day, and people are saying to me, where's Chris?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, actually, I'm just as important, and I need a bit of support,
That's right.
Yeah. And sometimes people think that they can ask quite personal questions about Chris, as if
he's not
he
there.
doesn't know what's going on.